Show, taking your business from seed to sapling to towering giant, with your hosts, best-selling author and business growth experts Noah Fleming and Sean Veltman. This is the only show that gives you proven, pragmatic, and immediately applicable business growth strategies every week in 15 minutes or less. Here's Noah and Sean.
Hey everyone, it's Noah Fleming with my co-host Sean Veltman. Welcome back to the Evergreen Show, and we have a really fun thing to talk about today. So here's how I'm going to start. Sean, I want to tell you something. This summer has been crazy. I've been traveling a lot. It's been a ton of fun with my family, but my 4-year-old has been teaching me a really powerful lesson this year. Really exciting. Oh, you know what? I apologize. I didn't ask you, Sean. Where are you? How are you doing today? How are things going in the world? Give us a quick moment, and then I'll get back into it.
Things in the world are going well. I'm just planning out my travel for the next couple months, looking at a trip to the Mayan Riviera, a trip out to see you in lovely southern Ontario, and a couple others in the bag. So everything is beautiful in Seanland. It's a gorgeous sunny day here in Calgary today, and I can't wait to hear about what your 4-year-old has been teaching you.
Okay, so here's what she's been teaching me. She's learning to swim, okay? And she is adamant about learning to swim. And so every pool we've been to, every hotel that we've been blessed to stay at and enjoy this wonderful summer, and of course, pools in town and wherever we like to go swimming, she wants to get the puddle jumper off, the water wings off, and she wants to get in there and give it a go. And in no time at all, it's coming together. But the key point for me is that she's so determined to learn by doing it. That's the key here. She is just absolutely determined to learn by doing it. She doesn't want me telling her what to do. She wants to just get in there and do it. And so obviously I'm there by her side, because sometimes she sinks like a giant rock right to the bottom. But really, in the past few weeks, she's got it. It's coming together. And so I think one of the things that kids teach us, which is really powerful, is that it's really easy to know something. It's easy to hear how to do something, but it's hard to do it. And so they're determined, and they get in there and they do it. And one of the things we find is that companies and businesses and people in companies get so involved in the day-to-day that they're missing the obvious. And so the key thing that I want to talk about today is, don't learn more, do more. Get in there and swim, do more. Now I'm going to shut up, Sean, and let you sort of give me your thoughts on this.
Well, first thought is that, it always is amazing watching, especially toddlers and younger children, pick up skills and to see how they learn it, right? It's one of the earliest metaphors I remember hearing about this is when somebody was frustrated and saying, I can't learn this. They were asked, well, how long did you try to walk before you decided to give up and not do that? And the person had a weird look on her and said, well, no, I didn't. I'm walking now. You can see me. I said, exactly. And that's the point.
There you go. Yeah, it's obviously, for me, having 2 small children and watching them go through some of these things, I just see so many sort of metaphors. I've written about this before. I called my other child the best business coach I've ever seen when I watched her learn to ride a bicycle. It was about getting on there and just riding the damn thing, falling a couple of times. I remember once she went, right over the handlebars. Thank goodness she had her helmet on and everything else, but she picked herself up, she brushed herself off, and away she went. And I think, to me, riding a bicycle or learning to swim, it's one of these fundamental skills. And what we see time and time again is that companies want something new, something exciting, something fresh, some new tool, whatever it is, instead of asking themselves, do we have the fundamentals in place? Do we have the basics, the simple things that we need to get done happening regularly and consistently? And and I know what we've seen in companies doing a few million in revenue to global publicly traded Fortune 500 companies is that they all have things that they should be doing that they're not doing. Simple, fundamental things, like turning those wheels on a bicycle, like making sure you move your arms when you're in the pool. They're not getting these things done. And so we've got to talk to them and say, how are we missing these fundamentals? Why is this?
There's a whole concept, this idea of magical thinking. And it's the idea that somehow we don't need to put in the work. things are just going to work out wonderfully for us. And, I think not just in companies, not just in organizations that we work with, but, I see this a lot in my friends, sometimes in myself before I root it out. It's this idea that, well, we've put in work, we've put in time, and so everything should be easy from here on. So companies say, oh, we've been around for 50 years. This should be easy now. We should be able to do this right away. And, we hate putting in the tedious work to build new skills and to develop new habits. It is amazing to me. And, back to the theme of what we learn from kids is they put in a lot of hard, rote, repetitious work so that it's easier for them to pick up more advanced skills later on. And we seem to turn our heads at that, or to turn our noses up at that as life goes on and as organizations become more successful. And I think that's to everybody's detriment.
Yeah, I agree. And, one of and you talked there about, sort of learning the deeper skills, thinking back to the fundamentals. One of the things that our listeners have certainly heard us talk about in other podcasts and we've written about in my tidbits and other places is one of our favorite books, The Checklist Manifesto from Dr. Atal Gawande. And the reason we love this book so much is because this simple idea that he was asked, how can we improve surgeries or hospital-related illnesses across the board in any area of the world? And he was able to do this by implementing a simple checklist. And of course, the book tells all the stories about the doctors who said, I spent 20 years in med school. I don't need to follow a checklist. But what they found is when they enforced this simple process, this simple tool, these fundamental things that needed to be done in every surgery, they reduced, what was it, Sean? I think 37%, something like that, across the board.
Yeah, in the 30% range everywhere, whether you were in, a teaching hospital in Harvard Medical Center or in a battlefield somewhere, in Afghanistan, this checklist had huge impacts. And it was fought, as you said, because people don't want to believe that they need help to do simple things they've done 100 times before. We see it all the time when we go into sales teams, and we ask them, all right, so what's your sales process?
Yeah, what's your sales process? And there's no answer.
And they look at us like we're from Mars. And then we say, okay, so everybody here, write out your sales process. And we get a different one from every person. And they're all very different from what the sales manager or the company leadership thinks the sales process should be. And so again, replace sales team with whatever. And I've seen this in brands with hundreds of stores across the world. You ask the same people, okay, write out the customer experience from what happens when the customer comes in the store. Write out the process of what happens once you've completed a purchase with a customer. Write out the process of what happens after the sale. And again, what we find, even in these massive organizations, is everybody's got a different way of doing things. Now, that's not to say that's always a bad thing. But again, what we find is that in the best companies, in the greatest companies you know of, there's consistency across the board. There's consistency in the customer experience. There's consistency in the post-customer sale. And so you've got these companies that have reached this sort of level of success, but everybody's running around doing their own thing. And if they're able to tighten things up, to start to get those fundamentals back, get everybody, turning those wheels at the same time in the same way, that's where real success come from. Do you agree? I agree 100%. I think one of the things that's been beneficial to many people, but harmful overall, is that business and corporate success isn't like swimming or riding a bike. If you stop moving your arms and legs in the pool, you sink, and you get some very quick feedback about whether your performance was good or not. Whereas you can have subpar performance in doing your job, in running a division, even in being a company in the global marketplace, and still survive and still do somewhat well. There's a lot of external factors that can prop you up or drag you down. And there's a wonderful saying from the world of stock trading where I used to live, which is that everybody's a genius in a bull market. A lot of companies get propped up, and they don't have to do the fundamentals. A lot of people go through their careers and they've managed to get by with half a skill set, and they mistake that for being highly proficient, right? How many times, Noah, have you heard somebody say, look, I've been doing this for 20 years. I don't need you to tell me how to be better at what I do.
Oh, you hear it all the time, and again, in almost every realm that I mentioned. So it's this idea of ideas and things and suggestions and fundamental skills or fundamental things like having a sales process, like understanding what the customer experience looks like from start to finish. Dismissing these sort of thoughts as basic or boring or old news or, again, things we're already doing, but when in fact you see they're not doing them at all with any sort of consistency or congruency, that's a problem. And so you need to start to look at those areas and ask yourself, are we getting the fundamentals right? Do we have the basics in place? Are there really boring things that we should be doing better? Like, are there places where a checklist would suffice? Again, I think it's just these simple fundamental things that we need to be on guard to make sure we're not dismissing them. We're not putting up that sort of, that protective front like the surgeons did when they were asked to put this checklist in place. So, Sean, what do you think would be a good challenge for our listeners this week?
Well, I think the challenge is to be aware in your own conversation and aware in the conversation of others when you think or when you hear, we've tried that before, or that's too simple, or yeah, I've known that for years, especially if you're not currently doing it, right? So think about something as simple as the pick 3 process, where we say every day, pick 3 of your clients or prospects or suppliers and pick up the phone and interact with them, either to thank them, ask them for referrals, something. We've got dozens of different activities, but the point is every day get in touch with 3. This is not, a new idea. I hope I'm not hurting anybody's feelings here by saying this is not a novel idea that face-to-face voice interaction is a good thing. But doing it consistently is certainly novel because we almost never see it being done consistently until we put it into place and sometimes bring out the stick. So the challenge is find something that's simple that you're not doing or that your people aren't doing and insist that it gets done for at least 2 solid weeks and see if you can spot the difference in what's happening in your business after 2 weeks of doing something, of actually doing something that needs to be done, rather than saying, yeah, I know about that, or that's old news, or we've tried that and I didn't make it work before, or give me something new. That's not a new tactic. I would rather do something fun and shiny and new. No, do something boring and simple and basic and enforce the doing of it for 2 weeks.
That's a great challenge. So I love the 2 things there, the mindset component and then the actual tactical component of it. I know when I introduce the pick 3 at some events, whether it's a team of sales guys or whoever, sales guys and gals, I get looks like, well, of course I'm doing that on a regular basis. And then we start tracking it and we find, holy cow, when we actually get them to do it, when we actually make sure they're doing it, suddenly they're getting these great results. And so what looked basic, what looked boring, what looked like old news or old hat to them was really something quite marvel and something that they said they were doing that they should be doing. So Sean, thanks for wrapping up the challenge there. I love it. I think this is probably one of the most valuable podcasts we've done that can actually dramatically change a business in such positive and demonstrable ways, just by taking something that you know you should be doing and tracking it, as Sean said, for 2-3 weeks, maybe even a little bit longer. See how they're doing it, and then see what process you need to put in place to actually make sure it gets done regularly and consistently. Anything else to add there, Mr. Veltman?
I think that covers it well. I look forward to our next chat. And until then, I hope things continue to go smoothly in Noah land.
So let me wrap this up as I usually do. If you enjoyed this podcast, it's always valuable to us if you share it with others, if you leave a review on iTunes. You can connect with Sean and I. You know this. I tell you this every week. Come to my website, noahfleming.com. Subscribe to the weekly tidbits. There's a contact form there. You can get in touch. You connect with us on LinkedIn, however you like. But as always, thanks for listening to The Evergreen Show. Take these challenges, take these efforts, apply them to your business, and you'll see results. You'll increase revenue, you'll get more sales, you'll have happier employees, happier customers, all 100% guaranteed, or your money back. So thanks for listening, folks. We'll talk to you next time.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to join us each and every week for another great episode of The Evergreen Show with your hosts, Noah Fleming and Sean Veltman. If you enjoyed this episode, please rate and review, and we'll catch you next time on The Evergreen Show.